people.
Welcome.
As of the writing of this video, I've only finished free Transformer shows. I saw Beast Wars 2, Headmasters,
Go to hell!
and Robots in Disguise 2015.
That is not how you treat a woman, sir.
Yes, I watched that before watching Transformers Prime.
But the way I see it, I shouldn't need to watch this show. It's a sequel series. It should stand on its own. Would watching Transformers Prime enhance the experience?
This is going to be juicy.
Yeah, maybe. So basically, Optimus is dead. Again.
Bumblebee is the star now, and he has a child he's training to be an officer of the law. But suddenly, Optimus Prime contacts him from beyond the grave and tells him to go to Earth.
The Optimus Prime?
Who is no longer alive?
That's okay. No one's ever really gone.
So, with some finagling, he manages to do it, but Strong Arm and Sideswipe tag along too. Whoops.
They find some humans who help them hide, and yada yada yada, you know the drill.
But, oh no, they found a ship that was carrying criminals and it crashed into Earth. Also, they escaped.
They gotta go get him now. Grimlock's there too. Here's the rundown of an average episode. A Decepticon is causing trouble, they work together to catch them, the character has to overcome a flaw, they get him, and the end happens. Rinse and repeat.
And that's basically it for the first 2 seasons until we switch to relic hunting. And then politics. For some reason.
It's not a bad setup. Sure, it gets repetitive, it uses cliched plots, and it's overall very simple, but I can't fault it for that. This is like Baby's first TV show. It's made for a younger audience, complete with character arcs, story development, mystery, and action, in all of its limited capacity. We do see some new and old faces to change things up, which is a problem on its own, don't worry, we'll get to it. And the subplot with Steeljaw and the Cons is interesting. I wish we got to see more of it. Maybe it would have made the ending less dumb. There are plenty of kids who like it, which is fine. I'm not here to change your minds about it.
With that being said, I have a few other bones to pick with it.
The center of the storm is always still, and it's easiest to find the solution from there. Optimus used to say it. When you're feeling overwhelmed, you need to find your focus.
Your test is to climb this hill.
Imagine you're a child who has never seen Optimus Prime before. This show is your first exposure to him, and he's hyped up to be this important leader, a war hero, who sacrificed himself for his fellow bots. Bumblebee is always talking about him and using his wisdom. He wants to make him proud. He broke the law to come to Earth after all. He must be a pretty big deal.
So, you finally get to see him, and this is what you get.
How embarrassing.
Bringing innocence to this realm is insane, my Cronus.
You think you'll never find yourself in an insane situation? Better check your expectation meters.
Wait, why would he know this? Wasn't he an experienced Autobot leader during a war? So, I don't know about you guys. After seeing that, I would question why anyone would follow him.
My Cronus, I cannot pass this test by employing this weapon merely as a sword. Tell me what else it can do.
Your knowledge is only overshadowed by your stupidities.
Apparently, he's a confused old man who wandered onto Twitter one day and lost his brain to the void. Now he's doomed to relearn basic training. And after all that, he finally gets a message.
The center of the storm is always still, and it's easiest to find a solution from there.
You got it!
Now he's back in the land of the living. Physically, anyway.
In episode 2 of season 2, OP gets a leg injury during a mission. Being a seasoned warrior, I'm sure he knows exactly what needs to be done. He'll probably stay behind, tend to his wound, and rejoin his friends later.
Or he'll act like a dunce, worsen his injury, and put his friends in danger. Nice.
In case this razor paw is sneakier than we expect, maybe the three of us should check things out first. That way, if anything goes wrong, we still have our big gun.
A well-reasoned plan, Sideswipe. But I prefer to end this pursuit as swiftly as possible.
Okay, what's his malfunction?
Bad writing.
Okay, other than those instances of stupidity, Optimus is fine. Heck, I don't even mind the friction between him and B. I think it makes sense for him to be a little overbearing. He hasn't seen his full leadership skills yet.
After all, the last time he saw B, he was a babby. What am I saying? He's still baby.
Windblade is best girl. End of discussion.
The animation itself is fine, the backgrounds are okay, the characters move like they should, and they even have bits of 2D elements. And this was before Spider-Verse. Bravo, Hasbro. You ain't gonna see a blue Sideswipe standing next to a red one, that's for sure. This was very obviously made for children. The characters have very simple faces and minimal shading. They're very colorful, almost toy-like.
Really makes you think.
The action is also nothing special, but it gets the job done.
You can tell they wanted to separate themselves from Prime. Actually, comparing them side by side, it's like night and day. This might sound controversial, but I kind of dig it. I like the stylized animation like this, and the way they play with 1s and 2s. I like the pretty colors. Sue me.
However, I want to talk about the designs.
Personally, I love G1. I think the designs still hold up. They're by no means perfect, but they make me want to own a toy. That has to count for something.
But I also really like seeing new interpretations of the characters. It makes things more fun and interesting, for better or for worse. Let's take Soundwave for example. He's a creepy little guy. He has the rough proportions of a skinwalker and more angles than a slice of pizza.
The guy looks like an SCP. I love him. Probably my favorite version of him.
I first saw him in action on this show and man, he's terrifying. There's no witty banter, no monologuing, nothing. He's a cold, calculating machine, hell-bent on completing a mission. He doesn't care who he hurts or what it takes. If you're in his way, he'll mangle you with his robot arms. If you're lucky. Some may find it jarring that he doesn't fit in with the rest of the cast because everyone is either human-like or a furry.
And they're right.
Soundwave in comparison seems somehow out of time, a relic of a dark past, or perhaps a dark future.
And that dark future is actually the past, because they made him G1-y again.
I'm so disappointed. That's all I can really say.
You know, speaking of, why are most of the Decepticons animals? It's not unusual for Transformers to turn into animals, but otherwise they look like humanoids or alien freaks. But for some reason, these cons are just furries that turn into vehicles. I can only guess that it was easier to design while also giving them variety. We don't want to give them same face syndrome. It's really strange, and it's never explained why they have these forms despite being from Cybertron, a planet made exclusively of metal and robots. Stranger still, the other important Decepticons look like themselves, you know, not animals. This wouldn't be a big deal on its own if it wasn't for this one scene.
It's time to talk about Starscream.
Finally. I can't wait to take flight and soar above the clouds.
I'm gonna say it, I really like this design. Okay, what I should say is that I like the image of this spindly gremlin hobbling around a nemesis trying to intimidate people who aren't Megatron.
Hear the roar!
He makes a return in this show, which is awesome. I have yet to see a Starscream I actively hate. After Megatron left, Starscream pulled himself up by the bootstraps, made his bed, and decided to take revenge. His plan? Steal the mini-cons that Megs was experimenting on and use them to gain ultimate power. But they escaped.
So he has to go get them.
Starscream? The mini-cons have been running from you?
I love the reaction he has to this revelation. Really? Out of all the Decepticons they should be afraid of, it's you?
He's like a squirrel.
Anyway, Starscream happens upon an anime sword. Convenient.
His henchies get the wrong minis, and that's how he learns that B is hanging around. So he captures Bumblebee for insurance, and then...
He starts monologuing. He starts like this prepared speech about how feeble I am compared to him, how inevitable my defeat is, how the world will soon be his. Yammering. I mean, the guy has me on a platter, and he won't shut up.
This is probably the best part of the entire show, the back and forth between B and Screamer. Although his dialogue is mostly exposition and him being like,
Don't make fun of me. I have daddy issues.
My luck has finally turned. I came to Earth merely to reclaim my property, but to find the Dark Star Saber and to have you at my mercy? It's an embarrassment of good fortune.
No, it's just stupid.
Forget the mini-cons. With a sword like that, you got all the power you need. Just pay us. Get on with the conquering you want to do.
I like to imagine he doesn't have any money, and he's just bluffing these guys. He spent all his neat bucks on a revenge upgrade. Speaking of, I found this line really confusing.
I want to be sure you have a good seat from which to observe my ultimate triumph.
Oh, is going back to your old body style supposed to make the difference this time?
what? Okay, when I first saw this scene, I was confused. I thought this was a G1 knock, and that just raised even more questions. How does B know what G1 is? Can they see into different dimensions? Was the show commenting on Hasbro's obsession with nostalgia pandering?
Nope. This is a real design and be a line continuity from a video game. I don't feel like researching Hasbro shenanigans, so I'll take my partner's word for it.
I really wish they didn't explain his redesign because it draws attention to the rest of the cast, such as the aforementioned furries. What in-universe reason is there for Soundwave to look G1-y? Why did Scream become a scrawny femboy in the first place if it wasn't as good as his Sigma male body?
However, he wasn't even cool enough to die at the hands of Prime. He's in a coma, and effectively out of the show. And this is where things get worse. I really think they should have ended the show here. We got what we came for. But, for some reason, the story had to continue. This season's just finding more Decepticons, with an overarching story involving Cybertronian politics. And some fan service thrown in.
Try sequence 156544. That code might deactivate the bars. Try Drop Forge's birthday. Right. Robots. Forged, not born.
Okay, I actually like that one.
There's something rotten in the state of Cybertron. The High Council has been making some strange decisions and giving our heroes trouble. Turns out there's some cons who snuck into the higher echelons of Cybertron and are brainwashing people.
How did this happen? Holograms. Yep, they use holographic devices that can be easily seen and removed from their bodies.
Oh, they don't have to suffer, Cyberwarp. That's just a happy bonus.
Wow! Who knew the obviously evil guy was evil?
Cyclonus and friends are preparing to invade Earth and want Megatron to lead the charge.
We gotta get
Megatron!
back. We gotta get
Megatron!
back. We gotta go. But how? We need some wheels.
They go from treasure hunting to political corruption. Just like that. There are hints of something bigger happening, but they're so few and far between. You forget about them, and they don't seem all that important. It starts picking up towards the end, but it's too little too late.
Optimus just exposition dumps what's happening in the second to last episode. Why didn't he talk about this before?
We gotta make room for our Stunticons, who only exist to introduce combining so we can have our disappointing finale.
Now, I love me some political intrigue, but this feels really out of place. It's like the writers wanted to make something deep, while also trying to stick with their simple, kid-friendly storytelling. And it doesn't work here. There's a lot that we can talk about with Cybertronian politics, but I don't think this is the show to handle it. They don't even really try.
We can't explore voting habits, what goes into lawmaking, or how corruption works. Let's just say the public is brainwashed and they used holograms. Just slap that band-aid on.
Can we talk about this plan real quick? So, Cyclonus and his clowns are doing all of this deceit, propaganda, and lies, with the expectancy that Megatron will come back and lead them.
Why on God's green earth do they think he'll do it?
Enough! The Decepticons are no more, and that is final.
What are they gonna do when he says no? I'd love to see that conversation.
He's not coming back, you guys. It'll be okay.
Also, why didn't they just hypnotize Bumblebee and friends? Apparently the brainwashing is strong enough to go from Cybertron to Earth.
If they need to watch a Big Brother broadcast, why can Soundwave trick them into doing so? Just send them a link and rickroll them. Or revroll. Or conroll. Roll something.
Why did they need to send Steeljaw and his cohorts to occupy them? Why didn't they just send a hitman, someone who the Autobots aren't familiar with? Why didn't the Decepticons just dispose of Optimus and pals instead of just blacklisting them? I guess they didn't want to draw people's ire, but then why not just keep it a secret? Accidents do happen, you know.
Oh wait, I forgot. This is a show for kids. If they wanted to keep it kid-friendly, why didn't they just brainwash those fools then?
Camera's still running. The whole planet can see those cons.
Doesn't matter. They're still transmitting mind control.
Wait, being on Cybertron and listening to propaganda isn't enough to brainwash folks? They have to be double brainwashed?
What's the point of the broadcast then? I could understand if they wanted to make a special announcement, but Cyberwarp has been repeating the same thing 24/7.
So, who's it for? The tourist? I guess that's for the audience. You gotta show that Cybertron is 1984 somehow.
Our heroes go to confront the Decepticons, but uh-oh, they can combine into Galvatronus. Not Galvatron, Galvatronus. It's their own original character.
This is Unicorn.
So the Autobots combine into Megabee.
A challenge. We usurped the High Council so easily, I'd almost forgotten the thrill of facing one. The battle begins.
I won't knock the animation here because it's pretty cool. They did their best with what they had to work with. Look at this. That goes hard. Too bad it's wasted. Why even go in this direction? Who wants to watch a final battle in a place they have no attachment to against characters they hardly even know? These are buffoons in an office. We barely even saw Cybertron except at the beginning of the show, and even then there wasn't a hint of anything amiss.
It's just, after all you and Optimus did for Cybertron, I'm surprised you weren't made something more prestigious than a street cop.
Not to mention, this place makes the Combiners feel tiny. This is supposed to be a clash between titans, but they seem like regular robots.
Yeah, I know Fixit is there for scale, but he's always small. Even then, he's not right next to them, so we can't really compare.
If this was in a city or a forest or someplace with familiar objects, this would feel more impressive. But we don't get a sense of scale here.
Anyway, Optimus stops the invasion force, Galvatronus reveals his plan to the world, and people see through the ruse. But that won't stop Galvy from beating the snot out of Megabee. But then...
Cyberwarp? What? No! You're one of us, Cyberwarp! Don't do this!
Man, this would hit harder if we got to know her more.
We swore a pact together, Cyberwarp.
I feel like naming a Transformer Cyberwarp is like naming a kid John.
Finally, through the power of friendship, they stop the Decepticons and free Cybertron.
Conveniently tying up all the loose ends.
Is that it? All that effort for this?
Yeah, like most of the politics here, it's just hand-waved away.
How can anyone trust your government again after this close call? After they were brainwashed and abused? Who let these guys into power? Why didn't anyone say anything or question it? Who else is a wolf in sheep's clothing? How does this affect con and bot relations? Are there loopholes or anachronistic laws that should be changed to stop this from happening again?
I don't know.
We don't have time to explore these questions because the show is over. What a letdown.
I've seen trash before. I grew up with it. And this show doesn't come close to being trashy. It has some good production values and the writing is functional some of the time. It has good lessons to teach kids. A lot of the jokes land for me and it has my favorite version of Bumblebee to date. Sacrilege, I know. Would I go out of my way to watch it again? Probably not. It's too juvenile, even for me, and some things just don't add up.
Does it deserve the hate it gets? Some of it, but definitely not all of it.
I asked you guys why this show was really disliked, and the answers are pretty interesting. The common consensus seems to be that it was worse than Transformers Prime in every aspect, including animation, storytelling, and characters. In a way, I don't blame people for being mad. Prime is considered the best Transformers show, and it even won a few awards.
On the other hand, I don't know how you can top drunk Decepticons.
Boy, these are good.
Robots in Disguise had a tough act to follow, and it failed. Miserably.
Towards the end, it felt like Hasbro was panicking because people wanted more Prime, but they already made Prime. They're doing a different show now.
That's one fine-looking barbecue pit. Why doesn't mine look like that? Arr!
And I think that's why Season 4 felt so off. They were trying to play both sides by having the same kiddie formula and doing something deep and mature. It does neither one successfully. If they wanted to have a final season about combiners, they should have went all the way. Have some combiners come to Earth and mess stuff up. Not just Menasor either. Get a whole flock of them. Devastator, Bruticus, Abominus, those guys. More products. Maybe they're the beginning of an invasion and it's going to escalate from there. Make our heroes completely out of their league. Shake up the formula. This is the final season. Have them be on the run, trying to figure out how to beat them. Really test your skills, resolve, and friendship. How far are they willing to go to fight them? How do they feel about this? Do they feel guilty for not keeping tabs on Cybertron? Maybe they meet another combiner team and they can learn how to fight like one. Then we can see them improve over time and it feels satisfying. Maybe they investigate why this is happening and who's doing this, and they make a plan to stop it. Russell, Danny, and Fix-It could have a subplot about making a machine to detain the combiners. This would also justify the cameos a little more because this affects everyone. It also gives them a time limit, making things more intense and fast-paced, instead of slow and aimless. This would also add to the drama. Maybe they flare up at each other. Maybe they feel awful for not being up to snuff. They're under a lot of pressure after all. Maybe they take things a little too far, like using unnecessary force. We can still keep Cyclonus and his crew too. Have some epilogues like you did in Season 1. We can get to know them better, maybe even see how they infiltrated the government. Maybe it's an Autobot traitor, but we can keep their true identities a secret until the finale. Set up Cyberwarp's doubt about the invasion and her inner struggles, intensify the disagreements between her and Cyclonus. Get some insight into their relationship and past. Build up the mystery and the showdown. And then, when our heroes finally get to Cybertron, they'll fight Galvatronus like they do in the show, but this time, it won't feel half-hearted and tacked on. And Cyberwarp taking a stand would actually mean something. This idea isn't perfect, of course. There are some logistical and mechanical things you would need to work out.
But the point is, there are a lot of ways you could fix this show, but it doesn't even matter anymore. It's dead in the water. Rest in peace, robots in disguise. You couldn't escape your predecessor's shadow.